Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the All Saints podcast. I'm here with my good friend, your pastor, and everybody's favourite guest on the All Saints podcast, Pastor Geoff Shaw. Geoff, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here again.
So we were having a conversation just now about something I was going to talk about this week, which is the joy of work. And I said, hey, Geoff, would you mind jumping on with me to the podcast and let's talk about this together.
Absolutely.
And you managed to squeeze 20 minutes into your morning, which I'm very grateful
taking a break
for.
from my work.
Yeah. This is work, Geoff. This is work. So here's how I woke up this morning. I woke up to the sounded like somebody was digging up the foundation of my house. It's like, I'm like, is that raccoons in the trash? It's like, and I was sort of about to go out the house, and then I thought, hold on, I'll just look out the window. I looked out the bedroom window, and I saw this kid. I say kid, young man, must have been 16 years old. Standing on the roof of my neighbour's house, which is about our neighbour's house is a single-story house. Our bedroom is on the second story, so right eye level with me, standing on the apex of the roof, carrying armfuls of shingles that his buddies have just been ripping off the roof of my neighbour's house. It turns out they're having their roof repaired or fixed or replaced, and this young man, at let's just say quite early this morning, was tiptoeing around sans safety harness or helmet, which is not what I'd recommend, but anyway, it's what it is, on the roof of my neighbour's house, probably been at work for 45 minutes or an hour by that point. And I thought, well, that's an interesting cameo to the start of the day.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I mentioned that to you earlier today, and you just described really beautifully, like, what's that young man's day going to be like, and
right.
What's the fruit of it?
Right. I mean, he's going to have the right kind of pride when he goes to bed. That is, I created something. I contributed. He's going to be tired as all get out.
Physically exhausted.
Yeah, which he'll have no problem going to sleep because he'll be so tired. And and he's going to be a little wealthier.
Yeah, $200
That's
better
right.
off or whatever. One day older.
And he's building his career, so to speak. I mean, even if he doesn't do that for his whole life as a career, he's building his legacy, if you will.
Yeah, but people who get to the age of 35 or 40 and own their own construction company were the people who at the age of 16 were tiptoeing around on somebody's roof, trying not to fall off, carting shingles to the dumpster.
Right. You know, I was commenting, we've done some interesting jobs ourselves. I've actually done a job like that.
Really?
Yes. It wasn't for a long period of time, but I had a guy in the church actually hire me when I was a young man. I don't remember how old I was, but I certainly wasn't 18. And my job, I had the lowest job on the totem pole, to walk around the yard with a huge magnet and just collect all because the guys wouldn't scrape in a neat way. They'd just scrape it right off the roof.
And it just goes straight into the yard.
That's right. And I had to pick up all the shingles from the yard and then go around with a big magnet to collect all the nails. Yeah. I'm glad I'm not doing that job, to be perfectly honest, today. But I remember that job, and I had pride in that job.
Because it's interesting. That's one of the things that you said when we were talking about this podcast was we should talk a bit about our work, the things that we've done apart from being pastors. And the point is not like bragging rights. It's like actually just some personal testimony about how our work has shaped us, what we found demanding or fulfilling or enriching about it. I mean, are there other jobs you want to tell people about?
My first job that was like a W-2 job was McDonald's. It's not a glorified job to wear a polyester uniform, and I was the Chicken McNuggets guy. And this was right when Chicken McNuggets came out. So that's kind of dates me a little bit, but they were super popular. And so they had one guy as the fry guy for Chicken McNuggets, and it was everything from making the McNuggets and being shouted at when we were running out.
So how many thousands of Chicken McNuggets?
I have no idea. Yeah. But, and it was a great job. I walked to work because I didn't have a car because it was down the street. In fact, my wife and I were just in the neighborhood because we took a trip to Colorado Springs where I had that job recently, not because we wanted to visit that, but I took them by the old neighborhood where their dad grew up, and it's no longer there, but I will always remember walking to work and having that job. And again, I took great pride in that. I worked at a graveyard.
Really? What were you doing?
Mowing, trimming, digging graves, fixing sunken graves. Did that for a couple of summers.
You fixing? You mean you're like filling the ground where they?
If you overwater them, or decay happens underground, and so graves
box
actually,
collapses,
that's right. And so you have to, you don't want to leave it sunken.
So you
that
fill
way.
in with soil.
That's right. You cut it up and actually pack it down and get it down in there to wherever the casket or vault is, and then fill it up. And
so it made me think about, I had a number of jobs when I was a teenager, when I was still at high school. And the one that I really look back on with the most sense of satisfaction and gratitude is, so I actually looked up the company, it's still there, called Rawlins TV in Witney in Oxfordshire. And they used to be a TV and hi-fi shop, and they also used to do repairs back in the days when people actually repaired their TVs.
Right.
Well, Rawlins would do that. And they deliver things. And basically, I was a sales guy and jack of all trades because it was a small store. Everybody had to do everything. So I was working with one of the two managing partners in the Witney store. And it was just great because Peter, who's still there, I mean, I don't know whether you're watching this, Peter Rawlins, but I'm a pastor now, who'd have thought it? Anyway, but he taught me so much. I'm so grateful to him.
Right.
And I remember one Saturday, I went in, I spent all day Saturday. He owned the business, so he could get me to do more or less what he wanted. I spent all day Saturday wrapping Christmas presents for his kids.
Wow.
But I didn't know whether that was what I was supposed to do. He said, well, can you do this? I'm like, sure. He helped teach me to drive because he wanted me to be able to deliver TVs and stereos to people's houses and set them up. That was back in the day where literally, if you went to a small store, the way that the small stores would compete with the big stores was on service. And so we were all about service. And he wanted me to be able to do that because he was just, and still is, I suspect, a brilliant salesman. I mean, I've never worked with somebody who could sell stuff so well. And
if he's still there selling
TVs,
and
he's probably doing quite well,
had
right?
to cave into Best Buy or something.
Right, exactly. And now they do mostly aerial installs and other stuff. But I still think they sell hi-fis and TVs. But he wants. He said, "Look, have you learned to drive yet?" I'm like, "No, I'm learning." He said, "Well, I want you to learn. I need to drive to Oxford." He had an appointment with a family member, and he said, "I'll pay you. Will you drive me? And then I can give you some tips." And he was a brilliant teacher as well. And I passed my driving test. And then I used to go around people's houses with their 25-inch massive heavy TVs, the ones that you needed two people to lift.
Right.
So I'd take them around and get that homeowner to help me cart them into the house, set them up. And it was such an amazing experience. And I was actually the envy of all my friends who worked at the big box stores, or Dixon's was the big TV store in the town, because they didn't get, they had to work hard, they got probably paid better, but they didn't get taught to drive by their boss, so
right.
It's great.
There's some perks there that you can't measure exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember somebody as well this was after college, my first, I would say, kind of real job after college where I wore a tie and, anyway, Roger Brune took me under his wing, and he had it was kind of an amazing situation. He was a man in real estate who turned low-income housing, upgraded it, raised rents a bit, and but he was still providing a service to people because he was making their life better, upgrading their homes and such. And I was he had a lot of ladies working for him. He had a little side apartment finder business going on. But I was the only guy working for him. He treated me like a son. And I mean, I had a good father, so I didn't really need, didn't have a huge vacuum there. But I mean, he was terrific. Yeah. And I'll say this, because even though I've worked hard and in a lot of jobs and done, shown a lot of pride in my work in a lot of areas, but he's one where I actually have regrets, that I didn't appreciate at the time.
Yeah.
All that he was doing for me. And the Lord was good to me, regardless. And basically what I did was I made a decision to leave that job to go on a mission trip. And I think it was honestly a little bit of an immature move on my part, but the Lord still was gracious to me and led me to a path actually in missions
Good
work.
Things.
So
So it's interesting. We can remember their names.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And the reason I was prompted to think about this, a number of pastoral interactions over the last few weeks, but what this speaks to is something which it struck me that the secular world, even the kind of mostly straight thinking secular world, hasn't quite got about the nature of work. So here's how it came to pass most recently. I was listening to a podcast with Russ Roberts, who I love to listen to, on Econ Talk podcast. He was interviewing Mike Munger about capitalism.
Okay.
And it was very insightful. And if you at all interested in listening to podcasts about what capitalism is and isn't, I recommend it to you. But what was really striking to me is that Russ Roberts did at the end of that what he so often does, which reveals the gap in, I think, his understanding of work. Russ Roberts is a religious Jew. He's president of Shalem College in Jerusalem. He's not Christian, thoughtful guy. Well, what he did was recognizing the way in which capitalism has brought significant, unparalleled increases in wealth. He then said, and this is paraphrasing, we've got to remember that there's more to life than just financial well-being. There is satisfaction, there is joy, there is meaning, there is significance. And his intuition at that point seemed to be that those things can be found, but only distinct from and separate from our involvement in work, which of course lies at the heart of the subject that they were talking about, the way that capitalism operates.
Right.
So it's like we've got this engine for economic improvement, and if you're poor, it will make you less poor, which is great. And for everybody, it's made people more wealthy. But there's this thing, meaning, significance. And work and the fruits of work can't really provide that. We need that from other things. And I found myself like, oh, you missed it again.
You're so close.
Yeah,
but
because it's true. Like, I mean, I love going home from work and spending time with my wife, my children. And I love, going to the garage when I have a couple of hours spare and getting on the lathe and making a bowl out of wood. But actually, I find satisfaction in work.
Right.
Work itself, I know I made a note here, and I haven't brought my Bible down, but I printed out Ecclesiastes 2. A person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. It's the work itself, when we apply ourselves to it in a particular way, that can be the source of so much joy and satisfaction and meaning and significance.
Right.
And I wanted to bounce that off you and get your reaction to it.
Yeah. I mean, clearly God has frustrated work.
Yes.
You're right. He has frustrated, right. Yeah. So we can call work toil now, right? And we're frustrated in our work, in our efforts to produce something. But that doesn't mean that work is no longer a mandate. Right. And that work is just a necessary evil that we have to do to raise, to provide for ourselves, to provide for our families. And, but the real meaning is going to take place with our families and all of this kind of thing, or our churches. And that's just a necessary evil. No, we can still find meaning in our work. Yes, we should find meaning in our work. And I remember at the last Bible study, the men's discipleship breakfast, that fallacy that you presented us with. Your work does not define you.
Yeah.
Well, actually, right. Yeah. It kind of defines you, right?
It does.
I mean, at the end of your life, sure, relationships are going to define you as well, right?
Yes,
your family, your faith is going to certainly define you.
Yes, what you've done for others will.
But your work is not something completely separate from that.
Exactly.
It never intersects with that. I mean, and even the toil of your hands. So if Paul says, it's good to live a quiet life, to work with your hands, he means what he says, right? And that's not just getting by and providing for your family and finding no meaning in that. You do that with great pride, and you're really taking dominion every day.
And one of the thoughts I wanted to chew over was, why is it, do you think, that for some people this isn't intuitively obvious? I think maybe it is in part because we're all recovering pietists, and we need to be told 58 times a year or 20 times a week that there's no sacred secular divide. God cares about everything that we do, and it's not the case that there's nothing better for a man to do than to pray.
Right.
Of course, prayer is good. Solomon doesn't say there's nothing better for a man to do than to have a quiet time with his Bible or do extra devotionals. He says there's nothing better for a man to do than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in his work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe for some of us there's that kind of latent sacred-secular divide where we're still slightly suspicious of the idea of working in the world as a source of joy and satisfaction.
Right.
But I wonder whether there's just like a more experiential point where some people, they haven't had that experience of enjoying their work. And I wonder if we could speak to that for a bit. Why is it the case that some people don't enjoy their work?
Right.
Is it something about the work itself? Is it something about them? What's going on?
Yeah, a lot of different reasons. I mean, I want to use this opportunity to actually genuinely praise our congregation in this regard, because I see a lot of instances, on our men's chat or whatever it is, saying, I think just yesterday or the day before, I saw somebody saying, "Hey, I'm gonna swap out my CV axle, joint, and anybody want to come by and check that out?" I think that's so fabulous, right?
Fabulous.
To share that kind of joy of, I've never done this. I watched a video, and I think I can do this, and I'm going to save a ton of money, and I'm taking great pride and joy in doing this.
And teach some other people. Let's
learn
together.
Let's learn together. And we alluded to it earlier, talked about it. We can remember those people who invested in us, and so it is so important. And I know not everybody has this. Not everybody had a father or a mother who taught them this, the value of work. And I want to show you how this is done. But we can do this in our churches, and that's so valuable. I think a lot of people grow up without that. They grow up without that in their home. They grow up without that in their church as well.
Yeah.
And so it's really a wonderful thing to be a part of a church where this is happening. I think somebody else is helping somebody we know very closely with an engine swap this weekend, maybe.
Goodness, yeah.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's just like, wow.
Well, and it's funny because for a lot of us, like you can't grow up with every skill. My father, my stepfather, I think of him as my father, was a great influence on me and taught me many things. But we never really did much work on the car, and so for me, kind of growing into adulthood, it was kind of a process of trying to figure this stuff out.
Right.
But I wonder
it's
if
easy to give up too.
Yeah,
on
you
your
just
own kids too. Like it is harder. We've always said this, right? It's harder to teach somebody to do something than to just do it yourself. It's easier to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself of that. I've got 3 sons. I need to be teaching them to do things.
Doing yard work with a 5-year-old is slower than doing it on your own.
Absolutely.
But you're not cleaning the yard. You're building a relationship.
Right.
And that's
you're passing the torch too.
But I wonder if there's a simple fact that many people, they haven't had consistently the experience of thinking, I really enjoy my work, because they just haven't. And some jobs are not as, we've got to be honest about it, some jobs are not as inherently interesting or satisfying as others.
Right.
I think about your deep frying chicken nuggets and my driving somebody's TV to their home to install it. I'd rather have done what I did than what you did.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are other jobs that you've done like this one now that you'd rather do than the.
That's right.
Than
That's right.
But I wonder if there's something deeper here, that our enjoyment of and satisfaction in a job isn't just dependent on the job. It's dependent on what we bring to it.
That's
like
right.
you could be flipping burgers for 10 hours in a way that is absolutely stultifyingly, mind-numbingly tedious. Or you could be doing it in a way where you're bringing to it a spirit of gratitude and commitment, and I want to do this well, and if the standard is 27 seconds, I want to get it to 25, and I want to be the best at whatever it is I do that I can possibly be. And bringing that zeal, working as for the Lord, not for men, to what we do.
Yeah, I think take any job that's, take a custodial job, for instance. Right? You want to clean something up and beautify something and set something in order for people's homes, for a church, for a business, whatever it might be. There's beauty in that. There's honor and glory to the Lord. You're benefiting people. Of course, those are never in opposition to one another. Doing something for the Lord and doing something for other people.
Yes.
So,
I think I want to say a word of encouragement to people who've they maybe catch themselves making the excuse that, well, I never had a great bunch of role models as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
My father was absent or somewhat neglectful. I kind of want to say, look, you may be starting from a place where you feel like your history of being employed has been patchy and you've been negligent and you've lost jobs because you weren't putting 100% into them, or you weren't even putting 50 or 60% into them. And you'd rather be in a different position, but you are where you are. And I want to encourage anyone in that position, or wherever you are, start from there. Like, make your next job application and make the next job you do one that you put 100% into. And you'll find two things. First, it's harder than you thought.
Yes.
Like, just getting up at the same time every day to get to an early shift consistently and just showing up is harder than you thought. And then secondly, it will produce over time, to the extent that you put yourself into it, it will produce a sense of growing satisfaction, and it will actually shape you as a human being. So the thing that makes it hard is the thing that makes it good, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The thing that makes it demanding. I'm thinking of the rest of the day today I've got to spend trying to turn my quite a lot of sermon notes about quite a confusing passage into something that hopefully makes sense to people on Sunday morning. I'm simultaneously quite daunted by that.
Right.
And kind of excited about it.
Yes.
By the end of the day, I'm thinking, Lord, please, I hope I have something. And I'll be a different person by then. And the same goes if what you're doing is stacking shelves or selling TVs, or like the young man I saw first thing this morning, tearing shingles off a roof. Like, he's going to be a different man at 20 and 25 and 30 because of his consistent, diligent application of himself to this task. And I think that's something lots of guys haven't had.
Right.
In the way that we'd all like to pass on to our sons and daughters. And they got to start from where they are. Just like, get started from where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll never get there if you only shoot for the stars, as they say, and
you start from where you are.
It's unreachable.
Yeah.
In that day, in that hour, in that week, in that month, in that year.
Yes.
But be building today.
Yeah. Right.
Forever.
It's interesting how Paul the Apostle, and we'll finish with this maybe, I'll get final thought from you in a second, but Paul the Apostle makes application to your work a criterion of inclusion in the church and in the community. If a man will not work, let him not eat. And in 2 Thessalonians, he is pretty tough on those who won't take any notice of that command, have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting just to probe the reason for that. To work in that diligent way is an act of faith. It's an expression of belief in what Scripture says about work. You can't be a believer if you don't believe what God says. And what God says is, this is a way of filling and subduing the earth. This is a path to joy. This is a way of creating abundance for yourself and providing for your family. Do you believe that's true? Like, if you don't believe that's true, you're denying what the Bible says about the cosmos.
Right.
And so that's inconsistent with Christian faithfulness. So to work is itself an act of Christian faith. If you were a consistent nihilist or a consistent communist or a consistent atheist, you wouldn't work. It would have a kind of fruitlessness to it. And it's only because of the borrowed capital of Christian theism that people have worked over the ages in the kind of way that's produced productivity, rather than just being like the Spartans and stealing stuff from other people. To work then as a Christian, from wherever place you start, is an act of, I trust the Word of God. I don't see it. And maybe that's the position that some of you guys who are listening are in. Your experience has not thus far registered with this written, inscripturated reality. And so you're called to live by faith, not by sight. We're not to rely on our experience. We're to live by faith in the Word of God. The Word of God says it's good to work. We're called to work. We're required to work. We will find joy and satisfaction to the extent that we give ourselves to it, even under the curse.
Yeah. And however we build, that's going to be revealed. Right.
Yes.
Our faith and our faithfulness. Yeah. 6 days we shall labor.
Yeah, that's the
we'll
first.
come together. And then we'll come together on on a day of rest.
Yeah. The fourth commandment.
And be glad and to celebrate and feast.
Yeah. The fourth commandment is not a command to rest.
Yeah.
It is a command to work and to rest. Yeah. You've been listening to the All Saints podcast with Pastor Geoff Shaw. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here.
And myself, Steve Jeffrey. Great to see you. God bless you. And bye for now.